Hi, I'm Andrew Trendle. You're watching NME, and we're here with Mike Mills from R.E.M.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Mike?
Fantastic, and you?
Yeah, not too bad at all, thank you. So here we are celebrating 25 years of Automatic for the People. I mean, when you were putting the record together, did you imagine for any minute that it would go on to be this important?
Well, when you're making a record, you're far too busy to think about anything other than a week ahead, if that. When we finished it, we knew we had something we really liked, but at that point, we're probably already thinking about the next record. If someone tells you they think they've made a classic record that they'll be talking about in 25 years, they might be lying to you.
Mm. And what, just fill us in at that time, because obviously you didn't tour the record prior to this, so then you actually took this out on the road, and then you started to see that success manifest. How was that? Was it like a runaway train for you, or were you expecting anything like that?
We always prepared ourselves for the worst. We figured if the last record was popular, this one was going to be the one that everyone hated, whatever record that was. It was a real freedom not to have to think about touring for both of those, Out of Time and Automatic for the People. I think it gives you a certain, not just freedom, but lack of pressure. It just creates a very open space where you can make whatever sort of song, whatever sort of mix, whatever sort of record you want to make without having to worry about what might happen to it down the road.
How would you describe the character of this record that sets it apart from the previous ones?
Well, I think it had a consistency, which is not necessarily a word that you would look for in a record to make you want to buy it, but in the sense of when we made records, we always saw records as a journey. You're inviting the listener to go on a 40 to 45-minute trip with you. If a mood is sustained for that trip, unless you're trying to jerk from one place to the next, which is also fine, but if you're trying to achieve a flow, then this record has that in a way that I don't think any of our records, other than maybe Murmur or Collapse Into Now, had. So as someone who loves the format of an album, who loves the idea of going somewhere with an artist or a musician for a length of time, this record succeeds in that way, much more so than like I said, in almost any of our other records or almost any of anyone's records. There is you have to go to Miles Davis or Joni Mitchell or 2 out of a million, I'm sure, but the fact that this one maintains some sort of continuity for the entire trip of the journey is really important to us.
Mm. And the sound as well, completely unique from everything else that was going on at the time. We're talking about 1992, and we've got grunge, we've got Britpop, there's still people clinging on to the 80s as well. Mm. Did you feel like you were in your own space and time?
We always felt that we were in our own little space, because we always lived in Athens, or for the longest time we lived in Athens, which was away from the mainstream, away from the media centers of London, New York, Los Angeles, what have you. We'd go into our little soundproof rehearsal space, and it would just be us, and the outside world really wouldn't penetrate. We didn't really care what anyone else was doing, and as far as the way this record sounded, we went in there going, okay, we're not going to make an R.E.M. sounding record. Any songs that we write that sound like an R.E.M. song, they're right out. So we ended up dumping a bunch of really cool stuff, some of which is on the demo of the deluxe set that's out now. But the stuff that we kept, surprisingly, was rather slow and acoustic, or mid-tempo and acoustic. We didn't intend for that to happen. We weren't looking for that. But when we selected the best songs that we had and gave them to Michael, these are the ones that we found worked the best for us. So there was that continuity even before Michael began applying his themes lyrically to it. So that was already there, and then he just made it more so when he sang his beautiful songs to it.
And speaking of the themes, they really stood the test of time, like frighteningly so, especially on a track like Ignoreland. How is it to live with a song like that for 25 years and then see it?
Well, certainly when you write a song with that much anger and disappointment and discouragement, which is what that song has in it, you certainly don't expect that it's going to be as relevant, if not more so, in 25 years. You would hope that the world would be a much better place. And indeed, the world became, in many ways, a better place. But unfortunately, humanity is a self-destructive organism, and has Americans and the British have both made some particularly self-destructive decisions lately, and it's sad to see. But that's the way it goes. I like the Sisyphus metaphor. You know, you're pushing the rock up the hill. Sometimes you slide back down, but you have to keep pushing, and hopefully it'll be 2 steps forward and then only 1 back, and then 2 steps forward and then only 1 back, so that you are making progress despite our own capacity for counterproductive behavior.
Mm. And if R.E.M. were, say, a hypothetical situation, if R.E.M. were still creatively active in 2017, how do you think you guys would be reacting to this horrible dystopian nightmare we find ourselves in?
You know, I imagine we would have something to say about it. You know, there's really no way to know, because, you know, what you feel, I mean, I could be just as angry at 58 as I was at 32, and I am, but that doesn't mean you would express it the same way. So there's really no way to say exactly how we might approach our feelings about today's world, but, you know, we'd have something to say about it, no question about it. We would make a point in at least 1 or 2 songs on any record we might make.
Do you ever stop to consider, like, where your sound might have gone if you were still active today?
I don't really consider things like that. No, I mean, we stopped as a band for a lot of reasons, and one of the best reasons was that we were able to do it on our own terms when it was our decision, and for no reason other than we thought it was time to stop. And when you're that comfortable with a decision, and when you know you've made the right decision, you don't sit there and second guess yourself. And there's no point in hypothesizing about what might we be doing now? How would we sound? How might we sound? I don't even want to know. I don't care. The music business is a world that is nothing like what it was when we stopped playing. And you know, that R.E.M. ended at that moment, and I'm perfectly happy with that. So it's other people's time to carry on now.
Mm. I mean, you just talked about the music industry changing and culture changing. Do you think in 2017 it'd be possible for a band like R.E.M. to exist and succeed?
Well, that depends on what you mean by like R.E.M. I mean, there are a lot of great bands out there that are making a lot of great music, and a lot of them are doing it with integrity, and they're doing it by their own rules, which to me was the definition of R.E.M. It wasn't so much a musical definition as it was a working definition, a theoretical way of proceeding. And there are plenty of people out there that have realized that you can be successful on your own terms. In fact, it's much more rewarding and satisfying when you achieve whatever it is you achieve. To have done it your way, knowing that you did what you wanted to do, is much more pleasing than to do it any other way.
And do you often listen to music and hear your influence? Because obviously, Automatic for the People and R.E.M. is like just incredible influence. Do you often hear your influence in other bands and other acts?
I very seldom hear R.E.M. in other people. I with a couple of notable exceptions that I won't mention, but no, I mean, like I said, I think that hopefully the legacy we left is that you can do things on your own terms. You know, musically, oh sure, I hope people are lifting hit bits here and there, because Lord knows I did. You know, nothing's created in a vacuum. Every bit of music that you ever heard and loved goes into your brain, and little bits of it trickle out here and there, and that's perfectly fine. I'd be honored if people said that R.E.M. inspired them to write this song or make that particular noise on their record. That'd be lovely.
So are there any bands in particular that you see living by the R.E.M. ethos?
Knew you were going to ask me that.
Sorry.
You know, no, I can't think of anyone except so many. I mean, I feel like there are just a ton of bands out there that are, and especially now that the music biz system that existed so strongly when we started out, it doesn't exist anymore. Record companies, as a rule, don't have that kind of power. The old tried and true methods don't work anymore because radio is much less powerful than it was. The idea of putting out a single and having it go to a certain spot on the charts and then have the next one go to another spot on the chart, that doesn't even apply anymore. So I think that pretty much every band now is doing it on their terms, because you have no other choice. There is no real built-in program like there used to be for here's how you get from point A to point B to point C and success. Now you just put your songs out on YouTube or put out your records independently or join a smaller label and tour your ass off, and get your music out to people who want to hear it. And that's really kind of the only way it exists now.
So how did it feel revisiting Automatic for the people 25 years on, knowing that the world is so different now, and then seeing this, like what they'd call it now a product, but back then this was a full piece of work that literally took over the whole world. It doesn't really seem possible now for an album like that, like Automatic for the People,
Yeah.
to have the success it had. I mean, did you feel that way, and did you learn anything from revisiting the record in such depth 25 years on?
That's a good question. I think that it's all a question of how much of yourself you want to put into your record. I think you can take just as much time as you want and put as much thought and heart and soul into it. You know, if you're after mega record sales, you're probably in the wrong business anyway, unless you're doing a very thin slice of pop or hip hop or something that happens to a certain kind of country that's selling a ton of records right now. Most people are not, and you're not going to. So you better do what you love, and that's all we were doing then. You know, we weren't trying to sell a lot of records. We had no idea if anyone was going to like what we were doing. I mean, after Out of Time, we had a huge hit on that record, and obviously we struck a chord. But there's no way of knowing if your next record is going to do that or not.
Would you say that you were the kind of band where each record was a knee-jerk reaction against your previous record? Or?
Not a knee-jerk, no. I mean, nothing's created in a vacuum, but you know, for the records we made in the 80s, there was a flow to them in the sense that we would make a record and we would be constantly touring, and while we were touring, we'd be writing the songs for the next record. So there was a constant movement of energy from within the band all the time. Whether you're making a record, you're still trying to write songs. You go on the road, you're still trying to write songs. When you go to record your next record, you're writing songs for the next record. That never stopped for us until we took some time off. And when we took the time off, we made Out of Time and Automatic for People, and then Monster. You know, we had an interruption of energy at that point, which was probably healthy. But as a rule, there's nothing wrong with just keeping it going. You know, you're writing songs, you're writing good songs, you're making good music. You know, don't take a break. Keep the energy flowing, and then at some point you have to take a little rest.
Which you're doing now, as a band at least. Obviously.
Well, you know, we certainly that. You know, I mean, we're all active musically. I mean, Michael's been singing, and Peter's, of course, made 3 solo records and has made a record now with Kern Tucker called The Filthy Friends, which is amazing. I've got 3 separate projects that are all sporadic, so they don't consume too much time, but they're there when I want them, and you know, it's just a very good position to be in.
And obviously, you formed on your own terms, you succeeded on your own terms, and you split on your own terms. Can you imagine any one thing that would make you guys get back together and reform?
No, there is really nothing on earth that would make us want to get back together. There's such a luxury in being able to quit on your own terms. When it's your decision for all the right reasons. You know, you could probably, I mean, I'm sure there are things we could do that would make a difference and it'd be a positive thing in the world, but at the same time, somebody's got to mean it when they stop. You know, when they say the band's over, somebody's got to actually mean it, and we want to be the people that actually means it.
Does reunion culture depress you then? Because it seems to be happening more and more.
No, I'm happy. I wish the Beatles had reunited. You know, I like it when bands get back together as a rule, but for us, I think it would only diminish everything we worked for, and I see no reason to take that chance.
Excellent. Mike Mills, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.